Hello, good afternoon to most of you, some of you, good night, very late, or good morning if you're in the Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania. Welcome, Adam, Bogdan, Dale, Eric, Josh, Paul, and Rob. Welcome here. I'm very glad you attended. And today we're going to have an interview with Adam Rabjohns from New South Wales, Australia. I hope I said it well. Okay. Well, I would like Adam. I need you to be on the screen. You need to put your video on.
Okay, there I'm unmuted.
Great. Can we see you? I don't see you.
No, it's saying my video is working, but I'm not sure. What do we see there?
You're the one they want to see, not me. I'm always
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Do we know how I should be able to change that to being?
When it says video, you need to click on it.
Yes. It's only giving me audio options.
Are you on your computer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It
Yeah.
should be on the lower left.
Left-hand side there.
Yeah,
It's just
in the
the
corner.
video. Okay.
We still have 1 minute.
Okay, I'm
Now,
not sure.
to the attendees, please remember that you can raise your hand and I will give you the unmute you so you can talk and ask questions to Adam directly. I'm going to start by asking some questions that I prepared beforehand that may help you relate to what he's seeing and he has been doing on his land. And I hope that that will spark some new questions from you and then you can ask him directly.
Yeah, I'm not seeing myself there, Jamie.
Yeah, I don't see you.
I'm not sure what to do.
If I put you
Recording.
as a panelist, would that let I'm trying. Now you're the
Yeah,
panel. Now you're the panelist.
there it's start video.
Ah,
Hey,
there.
there we are.
Okay, then you're going to be the one that, no, it seems I can allow them to talk. Okay, okay. Well, welcome here. It's nice to see you. Now I can see your face. Before
Thank
I
you.
couldn't. Okay, is Adam Rabjohns the right way to say your name?
Absolutely.
And the name of your farm is?
Leaston.
Liston. Okay,
Yep.
and how many acres do you have there?
We have just under 300 hectares. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
750 acres.
There we go.
Yeah. And how many head of cattle?
We have 300 at the moment. 300 breeding animals and bulls and a few steers as well. Not too many.
Okay. Please describe your environment and your rainfall so people know.
So we've being in the southern tablelands in New South Wales, we have quite often have hot, dry summers and cold, wet winters. So summers can be weeks in 32 up to 38 as extremes, 39.
Celsius.
Then
Celsius, right?
Celsius, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Celsius, sorry. And then winter, it may get as cold as minus 10, 12 at the coldest, but quite often -5 through winter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we get on average about 700 mils of rain each year, although it can be quite varied. So We had the last 2 months we were in our 95th percentile of our history for rainfall, and the 7 months prior to that we were between 10 and 30th percentiles of our historical rainfall. So it can change quickly, but I think that's more and more the case everywhere these days.
And what's the pH in your soil?
Oh, we're very acidic, 4.5 roughly, but we haven't really done too much to change that. We've played with a little bit of lime just recently, within the week actually, but we generally just work on our grazing as our main focus.
Okay, and were you always grazing livestock, or do you have another enterprise before starting grazing livestock?
No, we've always grazed livestock. My family, historically, we had sheep, fine wool merinos, and then had Hereford cattle, and then slowly moved towards Angus in, I suppose, the last 20 years, as the market in Australia sort of moved that way a little bit as well.
Mhm.
And now we just do cattle, and yeah.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to ask you something personal. What scared you or held you back from implementing the Total Grazing Academy on your farm? What specific objections do you have before enrolling in the academy?
Um, I'm not sure. It wasn't a huge choice for me because I was so interested in trying to get my head around everything to do with regenerative grazing. So I'd really anything I could get my hands on what people were doing and the results they were getting and things like that. I tried to do as much research as possible, probably for a year or a year and a half, really, before we jumped into the total grazing. We always did some form of rotational grazing, probably a month in each paddock, large paddocks, and we'd do a month there and we'd rotate round. But we also we had large paddocks, we had small mob sizes, so we might have had 4 to 6 mobs, and large paddocks. So it really meant all paddocks were getting overgrazed and understocked, and I could see that would leave us in the lurch almost every winter, and as soon as there was any sort of a drought, we're really in the lurch. So the more and more research I did, we did some leave a third, graze a third, trample a third style grazing for a couple of years, and we found it worked okay, but we could see also that there was a change in the plants that were doing well, and it was usually the big, coarse, thick plants that were doing the best because they'd all get left behind, and all the really good quality feed would disappear in amongst all of the older stuff. So we'd be left with, we were sort of being left each year with poorer quality feed each time we went round.
And how long were you leaving your livestock in a paddock by that time?
By that stage, we were probably doing maybe weekly moves, something like that.
Okay.
We were still doing that, but we just hadn't got round to, really increasing our stock density. So we only do daily moves at the moment. I'm still not set up to do multi-day moves, although we do have some temporary fence lifters and things like that. So if I get myself prepared enough, and then we can organise it, and I do that through winter when it's even more important through the stockpile. But yeah, so that was sort of our transition across. So it's been slow, but by the time I got to looking at total grazing and seeing how during the growing season, you're still able to really utilize all of that green grass and focus only on the areas that are really at the optimal stages. That's your animal performance there. And
I will
leaving,
remember.
yeah, and we leave leaving the other areas to stockpile, then that gives you your soil health and your plant health, and that it married everything together. It's sort of got the best of both worlds, I guess. It's got those deep rooted plants getting large, being able to go to seed, getting their root reserves filled right up, and also the animal performance side. So I didn't have real reservations in going towards the total grazing at all, to tell you the truth. Maybe I'm the odd one out.
Yeah, sometimes we are the outliers and we want to try something new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
built your water outlet, your minimal electric fence infrastructure?
Yeah. So when we first started doing the total grazing, we went from, as I said, we were doing weekly moves in our large paddocks, and so each of our paddocks were, I guess, around 20 hectares, and so we'd just come out of 2019. We had a fairly short, sharp drought, which everyone can still remember at the moment, and so we had not very much grass, and we still had lots of animals, and so for all of our infrastructure, we were basically building it as the cattle were moving. We are just trying to keep in front of them, and we found out that keeping everything as cheap and simple and flexible as possible really helped us there. So we, because we already had existing paddocks, we found the best way was to then split them up. So each paddock had a dam. We used sort of a hub and spoke design where we'd fence the dam out, and that dam could then be accessed by other paddocks, multiple paddocks, smaller paddocks that we then split up. And all of the infrastructure we just did with a single permanent electric wire with standard steel star pickets, and we would just stretch them out as far as we possibly could. Ring lock fences we're used to doing every 3 meter spacing. Here we do 20 to 30, depending on how flat the land was, or if it was down through valleys and bits and pieces, that we'd come back to 10 or whatever worked to keep the fence at my pocket height. That was really it. So we found there was no point sort of gold plating this infrastructure, if as long as it did the job. That was
of course.
it didn't matter.
We need to use what you have. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Completely.
So,
Now I have a question about your livestock genetics. When you started, were your cows adapted to your environment?
no, and it becomes very apparent once you start increasing the utilization of the feed that you've got. We've got quite a lot of phalaris, which canary grass, I think they call it in America as well.
Yeah.
And it gets very coarse and very fibrous quite quickly. It grows like crazy in our environment. It can handle the acid. Our varieties that we've got out here. But one of the things, it's got a very high stem to leaf ratio. So once you start pushing, especially we had transitioned completely to Angus genetics, and this was probably one of the things that when I first started was the hardest thing to get my head around and convince myself of, because with selective grazing, the Angus were just fine. They could do that. But once you start putting some pressure on them, they've not been bred ever to be doing high utilization grazing. They've been bred in England with lush green grass all year, cool winters, cool summers. So they're really not adapted to to our area. They're probably not adapted to any of Australia particularly well if you start increasing that utilization. But
now, are you having adapted genetics?
yeah, so we've now transitioned. We did some AI with some Mashona genetics. We did some CSIRO brought some Mashona genetics into the country in the early 90s, I believe. So we used some of their genetics. We've also used some Mashona genetics from Pharaoh cattle. They had Zimbob or 266. And we've also now just this year done another round of AI with another Mashona bull, black and polled, and so we've got heifers and steers on the ground now that are a year old, and they've just completed their first joining. So we don't have results back for any of their pregnancy rates yet, but they've been treated differently to our Angus for their whole lives. They've never been dewormed. They've never had any fluke or worm drench their whole life. The Angus, we still would go through and pick out the animals that were doing poorly, and quite often you could see that while the other animals still had good dung, they'd have upset stomachs the whole time. So we would do them, and we try not to do too much drenching, or we've really limited the amount of drenching that we do because we've released dung beetles and things like that. And every time we do that, so the yearling animals, they're looking great. You can tell that they're always fatter than the Angus animals that they were compared to. We've also done some Pharaoh cattle Angus bulls as well. So we've got a mix of Mashona calves and straight Angus calves, but smaller framed Angus calves as well. So we're just sort of weighing everything up and seeing how everything goes. The more and more that I see of the Mashona, the more I love it, though. So it's been quite eye-opening from when I first joined the total grazing, where I thought, no, we'll always get by with our Angus genetics. That's what everyone does here. That's what we'll do too. And now I can't wait to have more adapted genetics. Every year they get more and more adapted.
Great. Are you selecting according to those guidelines that you learned in the course?
Yeah, absolutely. We do our bull selection. We're looking for very, very masculine bulls, bulls that are muscular, full package, tight sheaths, nice sloping rumps, and so we pick them basically visually. We do a hip height to weight measurement as well, but it's probably not as important for us. We just like to see that visually full package and an animal that's actually doing well. And the cows we try and do, we breed them at their first joined at 14 months, so that they're going to calve at 2 years and then calve again at 3 years, and they get one chance, and if they don't make it, they're out. So we're happy to try and really cull heavily, so that we do end up with animals that are adapted to our environment and our management.
That's the only way to do it. And how do you feel so far? Are you advancing? Are your soil, grasses, and livestock improving?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a big learning curve for me. It's easy to graze the grass down, but keeping that animal performance, which is actually the most important thing, to keep their good body condition so that they're ready to breed again the next year. that's been a challenge for us. But I also know that that's going to be less of a challenge as we move towards those adapted genetics, because we're going from sort of feedlot style bulls, big bulls, 7-8 frame score, and you couldn't keep. They grow like crazy if you can keep the feed up to them, but
Yeah.
as soon as you put some pressure on them, like the high utilization, they just fall away, and those genetics go right through the whole herd. So, yeah, it's been really good doing the change.
Uh, does moving your livestock take you less than 10 minutes once you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. If it depends how many paddocks I want to split them up into, of course. If I want to go through and really increase the density, it can take longer. But if I'm just moving them to the next paddock, which I do most days, I just open a gate. I don't move them; they move themselves.
Oh,
So
yeah. I know.
if 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 I really wanted to, it could be a 2-minute job when I'm there. But I do like to take a bit more time and really watch every animal as they come into the next paddock, because they're moving themselves. I literally get to see every single animal every day.
That's correct.
So I check every animal for their, gut feel, make sure that they're full enough. Um, as we're going around the paddock, I'm always checking for their dung score to make sure they're not too wet or too dry, especially. And yeah, just that's where I spend most of my time. Actually, it's not the move itself. It's watching the animals and really taking note of how
And
they're.
do you have an optimal calving season in place?
Yes, so we never used to. We always did spring. We always did majority spring calving, but we also found that it was getting harder and harder, even with selective grazing, to have cows calve at 2, then at 3 again. So then we'd keep those cows that couldn't calve at 3, and they'd go into an autumn calving, and we'd be calving all year. Not all year, but we'd have our 2 seasons. And then those animals would have a calf on them right through the middle of winter. So they're going to really struggle. They're having to produce, they've got to grow themselves, they've got to produce milk for the calf, they've got to eat. So the feed quality is going down, and they're asking for their nutritional quality to go up. So it just all seemed backwards to me. So now we do our spring calving season, and I've actually moved that. We've moved that forward just another month. We used to calve basically at the end of winter.
Mhm.
We now after seeing a few years of uh, how our pastures recover into the growing season, into spring, we now calve a month into spring, which allows those paddocks to actually recover for a month before we're going back in to do any sort of grazing on them. So our grass is more likely to be at a stage that it doesn't scour. It's more balanced, and uh, you know it's better for the animals.
You said at first that you keep the quality of the grass in the green season. That means you stockpile the rest of your farm.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
is life now that you have achieved a large area of stockpile grass? What changes for good did that make in your life and the lives of your loved ones?
Well, first of all, when we first did the change uh, to a more, I guess it was actually to the total grazing. We'd just come out of 2019 sort of drought, and Dad had just been feeding cows all winter, um, and the hay shed was empty, the bank account was empty. There was less cows on the farm than it had ever been. Um, and I said, look, how about we try and change and go a different way? And he was completely open to that. I think I got him at a really good time. So now we get to winter, and first of all, I'm not really looking at the stockpile until winter time anyway. It's over there doing its thing, it's growing, it's doing its thing. It doesn't really matter during the growing season to me, so I'm not really looking at it too much. But then as we get closer to winter and we start on our stockpile, it's so easy because I know that within the first week of eating stockpile, I can say, okay, well, my cows are eating 1 hectare a day, and I've got 100 hectares of stockpile. That means that I've got 100 days until I need to be either looking at more feed, or that's when I should be able to get back out into my growing season rotation.
So you don't use those complicated grazing charts.
No, I started out doing that, and it's funny. That's usually one of the things people ask me is, how do you figure it all out?
Yeah.
And the grazing charts, it's fantastic. I never look at a grazing chart. I used to have, as part of, we've got a soil carbon project on our property as well. As part of that, we have satellite data, and I used to go through and we'd check the satellite data, and I'd have that on Excel spreadsheets, and I could guess how much feed my animals were going to eat, and then I could guess how much we had left over, and I could try and guess all of these things. But now I just look at the grass.
Yeah.
I look at the grass.
It's
and
so much better.
So easy. It's so easy. It's and the fact that you're looking at it every day, you get an intimate knowledge of what's going on as well.
Yes.
So I think about it, I'm looking at the satellite data, I'm thinking, what's the point? It might be okay if you don't go out, if you're there once a week or once a month, that might be okay.
Yeah.
But for people that are out, that are looking to do a more intensive, higher utilization, and get the benefits that come from all of that, then it's really, really easy. Just have a look at it.
And how did the Total Grazing Academy help you and your farm?
Well, of course, it gave me the knowledge to actually back myself and be able to do it myself. Basically, everything's in there that you need to know. And of course, having access to you, Jaime, that's been through it all before and seen it implemented in lots of different environments, it gave me the confidence to go and jump in and do it, because you've got someone there that can help, and you've made those mistakes already.
Yeah,
Why not?
You mean the coaching, right?
The coaching. Sorry,
Yeah.
You've made most of the mistakes, so
Oh yeah.
I can hack my learning and learn from you. That's been the major thing. And we're not out feeding hay and things like that. So there's not, in the middle of winter, who wants to be out on top of a hill rolling out hay? It's like it's the opposite of what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be beside the fire.
So how did it change your way of thinking? And which of the 4 pillars had the biggest impact in your way of thinking?
Oh, I think the biggest, well, of course, the grazing. That's important, but then also it's sort of, it's easy to get wrong, the grazing, but once you do get it right, you see how it works so well. And I guess that's probably the same with all of the pillars. The genetics. If you're moving the wrong way with your genetics, then it's going to make everything harder forever. It's the same with the nutrition as well. Having those, doing the small amounts of protein supplement when needed through stockpiling, things like that. But it's like I can't really pick one thing by itself. It's the whole lot together. It's all of that knowledge put together that then makes it work. Without one, it doesn't work as a whole then. So having all of those things together, the nutrition, the genetics, the grazing, I think I've forgotten what the fourth pillar was.
What were
But
the specific strategies that you learned that made the most impact in your enterprise? The strategies.
I think the main thing that we've really learned, and it was a financial lesson too, it's body condition of your animals. Really making sure that you keep that body condition up. You say it over and over again: fat cows, fat cows, fat cows. But that really is the most important thing to be able to keep producing the animals, because the body condition is so intrinsically aligned to fertility, and it's sort of, we never really knew that either, that such a small difference in body condition could have such a huge impact on your fertility rates. So that one's been great, and I'm really actually looking forward to the adapted genetics, that having our animals that mature earlier and stay fatter, then that all goes towards improved fertility. And the improved fertility, I can keep more animals, I can increase my stocking rate, we can sell more animals. It all just goes together.
What do you like the most? Which aspect do you like the most about the Total Grazing Academy? It's not, one is the online courses, the other one is the support, and then we have many other things. Can you share one or two examples of an aspect that you liked?
Yeah. The course is great, but once you sort of got your head around all that, the course becomes less important, and having access to other people that are in the same boat as you, like we've got the Fat Wallet Facebook group, where we're always posting there on what people are doing, and questions here and there. That's fantastic. It's probably the ongoing support that's the biggest thing. I know you do, monthly masterclasses and Q&As and laser coaches with other producers, and all of that's recorded. So I'm usually not there live, but because of the time difference. But it's one of the first things I do as soon as it becomes online. I'm there watching it and listening and trying to absorb all of that information.
Okay, so you mentioned the Fat Wallet Ranchers community. How has that community helped you while implementing the Total Grazing Academy in your land?
Yeah, well, I think there's other people that are along this journey as well, and even simple things when I was starting out with trying to assess bulls that we might buy. It's an important decision that you make, and it's going to impact your herd for probably forever. So having other people there that you can bounce ideas off, photos and things like that, and you can all talk to each other about it, really helps make those decisions a little easier.
Right. Have you enjoyed the masterclasses, the monthly masterclass and the implementation PDFs?
Yeah, I love the masterclass. They're fantastic. Even the Q&As are fantastic as well. Just having that an hour focused on a masterclass is really fantastic. There's so many other things that you talk about, that it's not just grazing or nutrition or the
economics
animals.
and all that.
Yeah. So I love the idea of the tree lots. I think this year we're going to try a little bit harder to get some more grazable tree lots in, and try and get them established. And there's just so many other aspects. If you've got an hour of extra time each week to delve into something deeper, that's great.
Yeah. And how much of the total Grazing Academy have you completed until now, percentage wise?
Oh, I imagine all of it. I've probably
All of
watched
it.
all of it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think I've watched most of it 2 or 3 times, to tell you the truth. I'd when we first started looking at bulls and things like that, I'd just go straight to the bull selection guidelines and I'd rewatch that, and then I'd go and look at animals and look on auction sites online and watch videos of animals, and I could have the selection guidelines there beside me. So it's not just once that I've done it. I've probably done it 10 times. I don't know.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you 8 questions fast so people can ask you questions because I have hogged the conversation. Okay.
That's okay.
This will be for your results.
Yep.
How much are you saving on hay per cow per year?
I don't actually know, to tell you the truth, because we don't feed any hay. But I don't even. I actually don't know.
Let
But
me put it another way. Do you have the normal stocking rate for your area, or is it higher?
I imagine it's a fair bit higher. I don't actually know, but at the moment, we're doing one head per hectare, and I can see that going higher next year and probably the year after that. And we're just going up, so I'm sure that our stocking rate would be significantly higher than other people.
Is it higher than before you started the Grazing Academy?
Yeah, so it's higher than we've ever been. We have had times, so we're close to 300 now. We did have times that we were close to 250, but that's cheating because we're buying someone else's hay. So, if you buy enough inputs, you can probably have a very, very high stocking rate. So it's very hard to compare exactly what we were doing to what we're doing now, just because our stocking rate was artificially inflated. At the moment, we do very little supplementation, even during winter. There might be for that 300 head. I think we did about 4 tons of canola meal, which was about $800 a bag. So maybe under $4,000 per year to supplement those animals, and that was non-adapted genetics as well. So
that's very low.
Very figure low will continue to go down.
So you have achieved higher grass productivity.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Is your grass growing faster? Is your soil getting spongier?
Our soil's not spongier yet, but the grass is
not spongy yet. Spongier, not as
yeah.
hard.
I'm sure it is, because when we started out, it was hard to push in any temporary posts, and it always seems to be getting easier. That last 7 months where I said we're at our sort of 30th or below percentile for rainfall, it was starting to get a bit hard then. But in general, it's much easier. And can you say that question again? Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Has your organic matter increased?
Faster.
Huh?
The grass growing faster as well.
Yes.
Especially after stockpile, it's almost mind-boggling for someone that has never seen the results of plants with roots that have got fully recovered energy reserves. Because after a total graze, and once that growing season starts, it's off. Even before the growing season starts, it's off. It's recovering straight away. It's quite phenomenal. And we've done areas where one cell was grazed really, really with a high utilization, and the next one they just had a quick little skim through as on their way to the next paddock or something like that, and you can just see, you can see the difference between the two. The one that had the high utilization and the big rest is just straight green leaf, and the other one, where the stalks are all left behind, it's still mostly stalk and a bit of green leaves coming back through.
Yes, I have seen the same. And has your organic matter increased?
I haven't measured it enough, but I'm sure it must be. I know there's certainly lots more worms in our soils than we've ever had. If whenever I dig a hole now, there's worms in it straight away. So we never used to have that.
Does your soil smell better, like the litter on a forest floor?
Yeah, it's because we're sort of grazing that a little bit more mature forage, the sort of more balanced forage, doesn't, what's left behind isn't, acidic or anything like that. It's not acidosis type, dung that's squirted everywhere and has that sort of foul smell. Everything smells better. And then through the stockpile, you get this large quantity of higher fiber and lignin grass that's then put down on the ground, which really does get that fungal smell. So, and we know that's the sort of feed that fungal populations want.
So that reminds me, are your livestock having scours in the early spring and in the fall?
No, we don't get scours anymore at all. We never get scours.
You learned that in the nutrition online.
That's right.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing better forest species in your land?
Yeah, so I'm actually that's what I'm really loving at the moment. We're seeing, I sort of mentioned there before that the Phalaris has got a high stem to leaf ratio. We're now seeing a lot of cocksfoot start to come back through, and it's got a much higher leaf to stem.
That is orchard grass for American listeners.
Yeah, orchard grass. So so it's nice to see that transition, and I think that maybe as we do a little bit of pasture sowing, so we oversee with a little bit of disturbance from a light disc with a plough, and we're going to try and sort of speed that transition up and add a little bit more cocksfoot and legumes into the system as well. So we're excited about that.
In the places that you're going to stockpile, that's the best place to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last question. Is your desirable plant spacings reducing or increasing?
Yeah, no, it's getting much closer together, and you see that especially after the high utilization graze. It opens up the canopy, and you can see straight away little green hairs coming up in between the plants. So, and that doesn't seem to matter, even if there's like through the stockpile where we have more grasses trampled down. It takes a little bit longer for the green hairs to poke their heads up through, but they're there straight away too. It doesn't matter whether it's spring or winter. So
okay, well, thank you very much, Adam. Now I'm going to, if any one of you want to ask Adam questions, just raise your hand. You just press on the three dots beside your name to the right, and you can raise your hand there, and then I can unmute you, and you can talk. Hello, Bogdan, Callum, Karn, Christian Bidenharn, and Christian Steinborg. Sorry. David, Dwayne, Eric, Graham Hunt from Australia. HB39144, Herman Jensen, Just Tick, Margaret Foley, Mark Tupman, Matt, Paul Hay, Rob Kramer, and Steve. Okay, now it's your turn to ask Adam. I will just be moderating, and that's it. Or you can write on the Q&A section. Okay, Bogdan has a question. Please unmute yourself, Bogdan.
Hello there.
Good morning.
Yes, well, it's 3 a.m. for me, but I'm very glad for making your time available. Very thankful. And I would just like, because I was trying to listen and actually think of a good question, but there's so many actually. But the one specifically, when you are describing a bit of your condition with the weather patterns you have and the temperatures, it sort of reminds me quite well about my own country here in Eastern Europe with the hot summers and sometimes very harsh winters. But for a few years now, not too harsh winters, like you were saying, maybe -10 for a few weeks throughout. Anyway, so because everything in conventional wisdom, everything that I see says that the first thing when you start to farm, which is my situation because I don't have anything yet, but everybody's telling me, where are you going to build your barn? And how big is it going to be? And how warm is it going to be? I was just wondering, what do you do for shelter for your animals in your environment? That's for the first part, if I may. And secondly, because I'm just going through a workshop that Jaime did many years ago, and it's freely available online, which is great. And just today, I was listening to him talk about an experiment he's been doing, I guess now for many years, with very high density planting of legume trees. I think he was talking about a plant called Leucaena in Mexico and other options that people are doing in the US, like mimosa trees and others. And I was wondering if you are aware of that or have ever considered doing that, not just for the shade in the summer and the windbreak and cold break in the winter, but also for increasing the nutrient density in the soil and providing food for the animals, given the high density. So they would graze the smaller trees, which never really become trees, and then they would have the big rows of the plants for the shade and whatnot. So that's the question for me, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Bogdan. Yeah, I think that firstly with the shelter, what do we do for shelter with our animals? We do nothing. They're out there in the cold of the winter and they're out there in the hot of the summer. So we really need animals that are adapted to that. So that's why I guess we're moving more towards the unadapted breeds like Mashona. I like the fact that the Mashona is still generally a solid color. I can get polled and black. So that means that hopefully it won't be offensive to my local market because we've still got to sell these animals as well. Obviously, we can sell directly to an abattoir, which we can do for some, but having the ability to have animals that don't stand out and look a huge amount different to what else is on offer, I think is a good way to transition into it. So that's for the shelter. And for the trees, yeah, I'd really love to do more trees. And Jamie's actually done a masterclass on this specifically for this, on how to get them established. Fencing them out, even still inside your paddocks, so that they get a chance to grow. We did try a little bit of the Leucaena. I'm not sure if maybe it's a little bit too tropical for our area. I didn't have good success to start with because I didn't plan it well enough. So we never got the fence up around the little area. So then when the cattle came through, they just ate everything. So next time I'd do a smaller area and just do it right. But there's also mulberry trees that are very cold tolerant and also have that good protein percentages as well. And I think you can't go too wrong with adding more trees. And the way Jaime explains it, with the minimal fencing and trying to direct seed, so keeping your cost low, and going that way, I think it's the way to go.
All right, thank you.
No worries. Have a great day, Bogdan.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, anyone else that want to ask questions to Adam about the leucaena trees, Bogdan, in your area, they will not do well. I think that you will do better with Siberian peach rot, and I do have a masterclass on that on the Fat Wallet Ranchers membership. I hope you can join, and then you can see more about it. But you need to use leguminous fodder trees that are adapted to your area. Okay. Yeah, there is a question here for you, Adam, by Steve. It says, "Good day, Adam. Could you please run through what alternative protein sources you have trialed and settled on?"
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. So the protein supplement is one of the things that was another learning experience for us. We thought, no, we're right. We don't need to do any of that. And soon you find dung stacking and animals losing condition, and then you don't have anything on site. And then you've got to try and figure out how to feed it once you do get it on site. And then, you've really got to be prepared to do this before winter comes. You need to have some way of feeding them. You need to have the actual supplement on site, and you need to be fairly confident in your system that you're going to do it with. So we generally use a canola seed meal. We have, within 2 hours of us, we've got a canola mill where they have areas around them that do large amounts of canola, and they do a cold press of the canola, which leaves quite a high fat, high protein canola meal. I think it's about 34% off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure. And in our area, it's the most cost effective for us because it's not being carted too far. There is soybean meal, which is available, which would probably be a better source of protein for us. It's a higher percentage, but it's a bit cost prohibitive with the transport. We also do a little bit of urea supplementation right in the middle of winter if we want to boost the protein up a little bit more. And Jamie's done a masterclass on the use of urea as well, the safe use of urea. But you do have to be very careful with it. It's very strong. It's nearly 300% equivalent protein. So small amounts of it go a very long way. And it's also, it's not a natural thing for the cattle to utilize and use. So you have to be really careful with that for their health as well. So do your research on that, especially. And if you're not comfortable, just don't do it. Just use something else. There's alfalfa, lucerne hay, soybean meal, canola meal. There's lots of different things that you can use.
Steve, if that answers your question, it's okay. But you can also raise your hand, and I will unmute you, and then you can start a conversation. Okay, Adam, here is another question by Herman Jensen. He wrote, "I started listening a little late, but my question is if you use any permanent fencing or 100% temporary. How many moves per day do you do?"
Hi, Herman. Yes, we had existing fencing on the property already. And I did say this a little earlier on, so you might have missed it. We had, they were about 20 hectare paddocks, roughly. And I think we had about 20 of them. And I just split all of them with single wire permanent fencing to be electric. And so we had dams in there. And so all of those come back to water. And we just did that as low cost as possible. Then through winter, I split them even more through the stockpile when we've got, really serious amounts of feed quantity. And I just do that with the poly wire. We only do single moves a day at the moment, but we do have some wire lifters that I could increase that to. I have a limited amount of time that I spend out there, so we do that when we can. But yeah, especially through winter, we try and use the fence lifters to try and increase that density. Maybe I need to be doing it all the time.
Okay, Herman says thanks a lot for the answer.
Thanks, Simon.
Then there is a question here by Christian Steinbord. I am located in Costa Rica at 1,450 meters above sea level. We milk 120 Holstein cows. Any advice on how to establish the leucaena?
I think this one's for you, Jaime.
I think so. Yeah, but you're the star now.
I don't have any. I don't really have any specific advice. We're at 900 meters, the tops of our hills, so I suppose we're not too far off, maybe. But if I was going to try and establish the any trees, I try and do just a single rip, or like a single disc or something like that, that I can just drop the seed straight down behind. And then I do a single wire electric 1 meter either side of it, and have it so that the animals can access it in the future. I probably just have a spring gate at one end, so that when they do come and graze in the first couple of years, we can keep that electrified and keep them out of the area. And then once the trees are a little bit more mature and established, then you could look at allowing them access into that area, either just through winter to increase the protein, or depending on how your situation is throughout the year.
Yeah, it's not easy. I have planted around 500 acres, and it's best if you plant a large acreage at a time with a no-till drill, and then you need to manage it correctly. I explain all that in the Fat Wallet Ranchers membership, because it's not, I cannot explain all of it right now. I am the pioneer of no-till tree planting in Mexico, and I've been doing this since 1984. So that's a long time, and I have made a lot of mistakes, and I can assure you that you need counsel, or you're going to make the same mistakes that I did. And it took me around at least 10 years to learn all of this. So enroll in the Total Grazing Academy. Get to the Fat Wallet Ranchers membership. It's very, very, very important that you not only learn new things, but you keep the momentum with people that support you. Okay, and any other questions? Or if someone wants to talk, please raise your hand and I will be glad to unmute you.
There's got to be one more question out there.
Okay, I'm sure there is. Rob, Paul, Mark, Margaret, Josh Tick, Herman, the other one, HB, Graham Hand, Eric, Dwayne, Christian, thank you. Look forward to listen to Jaime's advice. Okay. Once I would love to help you. And I've never been in Costa Rica. I would love to go there and see that farm. I myself had a graze dairy with 300 cows, but in the sea level tropics, which is very different. Cam Banks, Christian Bidenharn, Aesop. And any questions? Okay, well, I want to invite you all to the Total Grazing Academy. This is the experience of Adam in NSW.
New South Wales.
Huh?
New South Wales.
Yeah, New South Wales. I always think of North. I don't know why. New South Wales, Australia, a Mediterranean environment with mostly cool season grasses and legumes. But he has made a killing there. He has made it very good. And I am sure his stocking rate will keep improving as his soil improves. And as he has better genetics, he will make faster progress because it just comes all together. That's why I need to explain the grazing with the nutrition. Being a dairy nutritionist has helped me a lot to understand the grazing. Being an agronomist, knowing plant physiology has helped me to understand the needs of the plant, then the soil, the needs of the soil. So it all comes together. But if you don't have the right calving or birthing season, then you start pushing on a string. And if you don't have a basic knowledge of economics, I have an accounting degree, then you will not put it all together as well. So join us. The link is there. I'm going to write it again because it moved a little. But this is the link. And you will be able to join right away, get the first pillar, part of the first pillar, and to join the Facebook right away. And you will get for free the Fat Wallet Ranchers membership for 3 months. You will get for free the 8 weeks of coaching, group coaching, 8 weeks of daily coaching on Facebook group, closed group, and you will get a bonus of, what was it? Don't recall right now. Oh, yeah. Create spongy soil in your farm. That's very important because then you can not only push your, your stepping posts easier, but your productivity soars. So that's the truth. Okay. Well, Adam, anything else you want to say to the people
No,
here?
that's it. I just hopefully I see some more of these people in the Fat Wallet chat soon, because the more people that we have doing this, the bigger impact we can have, you know, in our environments. So I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to end it because no one is asking. So thank you, Bogdan, Steve, Aesop, Cam, Christian Bidenhard, Christian Steinbord, Eric Grahamhand, Herman Jensen, Josh Tick, Margaret Foley, Paul Hay, Rob Kramer. And they are saying thank you all. Well, thank you all. Have a blessed rest of the week. And thank you, Adam, for your time.
Thanks, Jaime. Have a great day.